Take a look now at a picture taken by Ted Evans, the Director of Public Works. This happened at about 8:30 this morning on Lodi Street in the city's industrial area. The driver was coming out of a warehouse making a turn when his truck was swallowed up by the road. This street was flooded out during Hurricane Irene. Evans tells me the pressure from the river tides compromised this road and the manhole, and when the driver went over that manhole,
Jersey Shore business owners begin the unthinkable and heartbreaking task of surveying the damage to their livelihoods for the second time in a year following a massive fire along the Seaside Park boardwalk there.
It's about 4 blocks and about 30 different businesses were either completely destroyed or damaged significantly.
Extra obstacle being the south wind was blowing 25 to maybe 30 miles an hour from the south. So it was a difficult fire to fight when you're out in the open.
Pakistan's Baluchistan province, a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake on Tuesday reduced houses to rubble and killed over 200 people. It also appears to have created a new island in the Arabian Sea. 60 feet high, 250 feet wide, and 100 feet long. Scientists aren't sure if the mud and rock outcropping will remain in place or subside back into the sea.
Dang. Joker place. It's coming this way. No, he ain't coming. The daddy ain't coming? No, she ain't coming. Oh, not towards the back. Ah!
Rains hit Guadalajara in Mexico, leaving many streets severely flooded and causing a ton of damage. Apparently about 20 cars were dragged in these waters, but wait till you see the camera pan back. Do you see that right in front of that car? That's a man holding on.
Some of the craziest sky I've ever seen in my life.
Well, we had rather dramatic conditions yesterday across the UK and Ireland, with some lively thunderstorms moving across much of the UK and bringing some intense downpours, in fact causing some flash flooding across northern parts of England.
The most intense cold front in 15 years has brought snow and sub-zero temperatures to more than 100 towns in southern Brazil. Authorities were forced to act fast to get the homeless into shelters and close down highways to avoid a torrent of accidents caused by the combination of slippery snow and drivers unaccustomed to the conditions.
You are headed to Jersey Shore this weekend. You might want to watch where you are swimming. Some places in Ocean County are dealing with a jellyfish invasion. People in communities all along the Barnegat Bay say stinging sea nettle jellyfish are inflicting pain in large numbers, and they seem to be in places where they haven't been before.
We used a waterproof camera to record the jellyfish called sea nettles. People who have lived here for decades say never before have they seen so many.
Four rounds of heavy downpours have swept Tianshui city since last Thursday, triggering floods, landslides and mud rock flows in 7 townships and resulting in the death of 22 people. 9 villages remain isolated after power, communication and roads were cut off. One rescue worker told China View how in some villages more than half of the houses were destroyed in the disaster.
One incident on July 13th was even more dramatic. 4 people in a car were driving along a mountain pass when it was suddenly inundated by a nearly minute-long landslide. The whole thing was caught on camera.
More than 1.2 million residents in 7 counties and districts were affected by the rainstorms, with 30,000 evacuated.
This comes after the province was hit by a 6.6 magnitude earthquake just 1 week ago, which claimed 95 lives.
While no one thinks of Italy as Tornado Alley, this was the scene in Milan on Monday, captured swirling outside the window in an industrial park. It caused structural damage and injured 12 people before it blew over.
The tornado, which reached grade 3 on the Fujita scale, hit Trezzo Solada and Grezzago in the province of Milan on Monday, with video showing debris flying through the air.
Severe weather has residents of several states on alert tonight as people in North Carolina remain without power after flash flooding wiped out homes and dozens of roads.
A deluge of rain caused major flooding and widespread power outages in North Carolina this weekend. As much as 8 to 10 inches of rain fell in western parts of the state in 12 hours.
Place to remember, like Asheville, North Carolina and Greenville, South Carolina, already their wettest July on record, both having more than 13 inches just this month. Yesterday, you had scenes like this, the road opening up because places like Hickory, North Carolina got 7 inches or more in just 2 hours.
Las Vegas, too, the normally dry Las Vegas Valley, got slammed with more than 2 inches of rain Sunday afternoon, and that left vehicles stalled on Interstate 215, also resulting in flood watches that extended all the way to northwest Arizona and the eastern desert of California.
Heavy rain and record winds of up to 89 miles per hour also hit New Mexico and flooded parts of southern Utah.
In the 12 years we've lived here, I've never seen this amount of water.
Some states are even setting record lows. Stanley, Idaho hit a winter-like 34 degrees this morning. Sioux City, Iowa had its coolest July morning since 1995 with a low of 44. And here on South Dakota, dipped to 41 degrees.
And in Philadelphia, a new record. More than 8 inches of rain falling in a day, smashing the rainfall record from Tropical Storm Floyd. Operations at Philadelphia International Airport came to a grinding halt when the power went out, paralyzing air traffic for several hours. Meanwhile, in nearby New Jersey, the heavy rains leading to blinding conditions. Cars stuck in knee-deep water for hours.
Old, young, large, and small, bottlenose dolphins of all ages and sizes washing up dead along the Jersey shore. The past few weeks have been overwhelming for Mike Kapp and other staffers at Brigantine's Marine Mammal Stranding Center. Since July 9th, they've responded to reports of 17 dead dolphins discovered on beaches in Ocean, Cape May, Monmouth, and Atlantic counties. We broke down the numbers to show you how many were found in each.
The results we have had showing viral pneumonia is not indicative of a typical death of an animal. There's something more involved here, and we're not quite sure what it might be at this point.
The oil spill from a leaked pipeline in Thailand has reached the popular tourist island of Koh Samet. It's estimated around 50,000 litres of crude oil have poured into the sea since Saturday. Hundreds of people, including Navy personnel, environment officials and villagers, are battling to clean the oil from Samet's beaches. Pipeline operator PTT Global Chemical has apologised and said the leak has now been plugged. It says the clean-up operation will take another 2 or 3 days, but environment groups say the firm has underestimated the extent of the damage.
Thousands of people squeezed into this swimming pool in southwest China on Tuesday to take a dip in what's been called the country's hottest Julys in 140 years. But as temperatures soared outside, inside local residents were cool, if not somewhat squashed.
Scorching weather in East China's Zhejiang province in recent days has caused spontaneous combustion of a car and advertising board along the street and deformed road surfaces. A summer heat wave has been sweeping the eastern China province since late July, with temperatures staying above 40 degrees Celsius in some parts for the last 7 days.
An emergency level 2 heat alert for the first time. At least 2 people in the eastern city of Shanghai have died from heat stroke.
Flash floods rage through a community in the Pennines. The village of Walsden near Todmorden
hit by up to 18 inches of water after extremely heavy rain. It left much of the village submerged. Locals say the rains came and within 15 minutes the road was completely flooded over Wellington Boots. The force of the water so great it ripped up the road. One local flood warden said the amount of rain was unprecedented and caused sheer devastation.
Арал деген міне болған күшті болған. Теңіз деген шалқып жатыр. Түрі жаман болды. Баржылар жүрт бұрында.
Now, all that remains are the lethal pesticides left from cotton production. This toxic dust is causing disturbingly high rates of tuberculosis and cancer.
Remember the day you took your high school crush to the prom? Remember the day you eloped? Remember the day you were called to protect Canada's freedom? Remember the day disaster struck your home?
سیل و رانش زمین در استان سیچوان چین تاکنون 40 نفر زیر گلولای دفن و بیش از 500,000 نفر هم آواره شد.
We flew over this enormous Jakobshavn Glacier, the most productive glacier in the world. The ice sheet used to be much smoother on top. Now it's just fractured on top. Conrad Steffens, the famous climatologist, said it looked as if a huge hammer had come down on top of the ice sheet. There's surface melting, which has really accelerated over the years. Huge lakes and thaw ponds. These are these beautiful blue eyes you see in the ice from the air. In other words, yes, it's really melting rapidly in ways that we're just discovering now.
Some stunning before and after photos. And for people that can't grasp what is taking place on the West Coast, show them this video. Show them these photos before and after of what is taking place here. This is Shasta Lake before and after. Another view, and you can see from the bridge here, it shows how dramatically this area has dropped. You can see here at the dam, also showing the land. And I'll leave you guys on this one. This is Folsom Lake. Look at that. That's how bad it is out west, folks. Spread the word. Let people see this, because seeing is believing. And once they lay their eyes on this, they'll realize, hey, this is serious. This is a potential.
Folks, Patrick Penry here, and this video I'm doing basically because I realized that I was unable to dismiss the Planet X Nibiru theory offhand when I began to look into it. It simply wasn't easily dismissed. In fact, the more I researched it, the more I found evidence to indicate the possibility of. Is it going to happen in my lifetime? That I don't know. But to my understanding, 90% of systems are binary, which means they have two stars. We would be an exception if it was just the sun by itself. One thing that led me into this today was this guy's video where he's saying something to the effect, I guess this is Bill Deagle, one of his radio shows that the guy's talking about, where he's alleging coastal military bases now evacuating to be evacuated in 2 weeks. Well, I don't know if that's true. Certainly if there is an inbound brown dwarf and it gets close, at some point they're going to have to begin to take overt action instead of covert action, and it'll be obvious to all of us that something finally is obviously going on. So in this guy's thread, it's only 400 something views. The trolls were out in force, attacking with vitriol, I guess is the word I would use. They're very angry and they're abusive is really what it amounts to. So the troll phenomena in the Planet X threads in and of itself is something to take note of, because, you know, I looked into the Bigfoot thing, but it didn't take a lot of research for me to pretty much go ahead and say, look, there's really not a lot of evidence of where's the Bigfoot's poop and where the dead Bigfoot's at and where they living at, you know. And if you want to come at me with the aliens are controlling a robot Bigfoot, hey, I'm a philosopher. I don't deny that couldn't be possible, but then we're getting into the very rare and minuscule chances of, and it's just, you know, I'm banking on the more probable cause, I'll put it that way. So in this thread, the trolls were out and I decided to come out. Let's talk about Planet X, because back in the day, a year ago, well, here's my notes from, I can't see it in the dim light here, but these are my notes from a year ago when I began looking into this. And so what I took note of off the bat, I said, what we know? Well, what we know is the governments are saying global warming is causing this adverse weather. And that's being disputed. I mean, we can't deny that's being disputed. They have evidence on their behalf. We have evidence against. I put it to you, scientists can easily be bought and paid for. So again, we really don't know in that line other than that we are experiencing adverse weather. I'll go into that a bit later, exactly what adverse weather we're experiencing. Also, I noted that HARP and woodpecker technology, can this produce the effects weather-wise that we're experiencing? Is it possible for electromagnetic engineering to be able to cause the end times type scenario? That's a definite good question. So at the time, this was around Elenin was going on. Like I said, I've got notes on Elenin here, which we'll talk about that as well, which really that panned out to be nothing more than a psyop. We were looking at the sky, and then all of a sudden we have Fukushima down on the ground below. Now, I'm unable to dismiss it, but there's a lot of evidence for Planet X being, or Nibiru, or a brown dwarf, a second sun, being a realistic possibility. Now I want to say 2012 is a deadline for me. Timelines have come and timelines have gone, and nothing has happened. In 2003 there was a psyop that went down to say Planet X was coming, and that would be a total just like the Y2K, totally bogus, totally bogus. Then came the Elenin psyop. Well, this was, some said Planet X as well. That came and went. That ended up being a total psyop. And I say that because it was so built up and so fluffed up to such a degree, and then nothing really happened, you know. It was a distraction, no doubt about it. And plus, these things are leading you to be more and more skeptical of this possible scenario. And now we have, guys, I guess people are saying in 17 days something's going to happen. Look, here's the deal on that as far as Patrick Penry is concerned. The timeline I've got is December 21st, 2012, and that's the timeline everybody's got. The end of 2012, I've been telling my wife, if 2012 comes and goes and the house is still standing, I really will seriously begin to do repair work around here. I'll get back up on the roof, get the thing on the porch fixed, all that kind of fence will be mended, all that stuff will be done. Let's make sure we get through. And this, I'm just being realistic. I'm just being realistic because our government also is not building up infrastructure, right? So I'm only emulating what my government is doing right now, and that I'm not fixing up my house, my infrastructure, because neither are they doing it. Now, I wanted to, here's my notes. Let me get back to this real quick, because this is important. I said possibility. Okay, there's one possibility that there's a celestial body is real. Okay, that is a possibility you can't deny. That there is a celestial body, what type, what kind, what magnitude, where it's at, that I can't say. But it's possible something like that is having an effect. Number two, could be celestial body and HARP combined. In other words, the New World Order, whatever you want to call them, Power Elite, are utilizing this incoming body and HARP systems at the same time, chemtrails, electromagnetic engineering, to amplify the effects and make the best of it they can. Because remember, out of a big crisis, one can restructure the entire globe if a crisis was big enough, if you think about it. Number three, I said it could be HARP alone, or a combination with the tsunami bombs. That's Project SEAL from 1945. These are possibilities, however small. Can HARP cause this level of disruption planet-wide? I don't know that. I don't know that. It certainly lends towards a planetary body that effects would be tremendous beyond the scope of man's abilities, and that is the most fearful thing that we would worry about, is the incoming brown dwarf that the government or the powerful people, no one can really stop it. You know, it would be an inevitable disaster. Would it kill everyone? Obviously not. Humans are still around after thousands and thousands of years. Now, quickly, let me take you over my list of reasons why I couldn't. And we got thunder in the background here. We're getting rain in Florida. Very pleased. Very pleased. Maybe a little bit late, but better late than never. Okay, Legends of Marduk, Wormwood the Destroyer. You cannot deny historically that there are the legends and the writings in reference to a planetary body that comes by and causes destruction on Earth, to simplify it for you. Movement of the North Pole. We know this is going on, and we know this is going on in an increasing rate. Where it is at this time, I don't know, because my last research, like I say, I left off 6 months to 12 months ago on this, and who knows where it's at now, but it was picking up and it was moving, and they were tracking it. I think it was moving in the direction of Russia. Unusual sun activity and flares. No doubt with 11-year sun cycle, we've passed that, and instead of a diminishing activity, the activity is increasing. In fact, there's been a lot of phenomena. If you go in and look on YouTube, you can see a lot of weird stuff going on around the sun. Stolen paintings and art. This I put on a list a year ago when I got to thinking about these stolen paintings. You know, a lot of these are never recovered. Do they sit in a room somewhere where only a few super powerful rich people can go in and look at them? I don't know. Or do they go underground with other things that are being stored away? Like the seeds and the underground libraries and all sort of things like that. You can't deny that things are being tucked away right now. Stolen paintings and art, just type it in. Over the years, a lot of stuff's gone missing, has never been recovered. Could be stocking underground in case something catastrophic happens. You want to save as much of the historical, archaeological remnants of mankind as you can. It just makes common sense to me. Resetting of world clocks, slowing of Earth. This is the second time happened recently. And previously I read where they had, the Naval Observatory had made adjustment or adjustments, plural, before. And so as this thing comes closer, maybe it's going to offset the spin of the Earth, and we'll see more and more they'll have to account for that. Sun rising in Greenland 2 days early. That's something, this was a while back when I was researching this, but perhaps you've heard of that, and that also is something that could account for an incoming large celestial body. Financial collapse. Okay, and I say, in my opinion, I agree with Alex Jones and others, the collapse is really staged, and the evidence of that is judged by their actions. I mean, if you drive a car at 100 miles an hour at a cliff and past a certain point, you know you can't brake in time, you know you're going over the cliff. That's staged because you could have stopped a long time ago. The fact they continue to do these things, that's the position we're in now. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Well, there's a number of reasons this collapse it has come about, and people don't want to invest. You cannot deny that fact. There's a lack of investment. Well, let's assume the power elite are aware of this incoming brown dwarf, and they've known for a number of years now to A, get their bunkers ready, and B, there's no sense putting a lot of money into your stuff, because we'll see afterwards when this thing is gone what's left, and when it comes to rebuilding, then we'll really sink the money in and our investments will really pay off. So the financial collapse is at stage, and that they knew what they were doing. You would want to, prior to this brown dwarf coming in, you'd want to kind of drop the bottom out of the economy, and that takes a lot of power out of the hands of the people. And I've thought this through. The fact of the matter is, you cannot just tell the people that there's a brown dwarf coming, oh my God, we're all probably going to die. That doesn't work no matter how good people's intentions are. I'll be right back. That's my wife calling. One moment. Yeah, it's my mom trying to lure me over the chocolate cake. Okay, now, financial collapse. You might have reason to do that because, you know, in the end, it's going to come time when people will know what's going on. The less ability they have to do anything crazy or stupid, the better it is. And it's not like the Japanese people after the tsunami. They were nice and orderly. Look at Katrina, and that's probably a good example of what we're going to get. That might have been a little staging, Katrina, as a matter of fact, to see what we're going to end up with. South Pole Observatory. Many of you know we built this, and they say that the brown dwarf is coming from a southern inclination, so that's from the southernmost point on Earth. You would want to observe this inbound celestial object. Prolific number of sinkholes right here in Alachua County. A guy in a tractor got sucked into a sinkhole, and they do happen in Florida from time to time, but the point is there have been a severity and number, increasing intensity and number and size of sinkholes. A couple in South America, the hole just go down into the ground. It's like this, you know, almost near bottomless pit. Launch of the infrared satellite and subsequent New York Times article called Clues Get Warm in Search for Planet X. And there's been a couple of articles, 20 years old or so, that came out, and then there was really just a silence for a long period of time. And then later on there's all these weird, like PSYOPs is what I call them, in 2003, the Ellen, all these sort of things, you know. And we'll talk more about guys like Sitchin, Zachariah Sitchin, in just a minute. Zachariah, however you pronounce it. Whirlpools in multiple oceans. Now, I've read this is a product of electromagnetic engineering, but, you know, is that a definite correlation? Not necessarily. This could be attributable to something else, like a large inbound body that would have gravitational influence on the planet. And if you look that up, there's 2 or 3 or maybe even more now. I seem to remember an article recently, another whirlpool has appeared into the South Ocean somewhere. So strange, these big giant whirlpools that normally are not around, at least prior to 70s or so, my understanding, not in the number that they are, intensity and number. Earthquakes. Certainly if you're following that, there's a lot of suppression of earthquake information. You can't really trust the USGS. They've been known to post stuff up, take stuff back down. But what we do know is independent researchers are saying earthquakes in intensity and magnitude, it's, you know, it's definitely, it's getting worse. There's no doubt about it. Have I had one here in Florida yet? No, but Florida's not really on a fault line. It's the Californians and the Japanese and all these other people that should really be worried. Out of control fires. Now, I noticed in the article, in the video I posted earlier today, I mentioned an article, and in that article they talked about the fires in Russia in 2010. They were attributing that to global warming. Well, that's interesting. I read a number of places where Russia unofficially accused us of starting those fires with some kind of technology. I don't remember if it was electromagnetic or if it was satellites with lasers. I don't remember. But this is much like us accusing Russia in the late 80s of altering the jet stream over California. Again, can we attribute these effects to electromagnetic engineering? Possibly. If you look at everything that's going on, it's possible, but I lend towards something of greater power is doing this because it's global in nature, and it certainly seems to be that way anyway. Out of control fires, we're experiencing those now as Oklahoma and Colorado. Flooding. Okay, this has been going since 2010. I had a note in here, Pakistan got hit, and if you look, a lot of these wheat-producing nations, these agri-nations, are really been hit with flooding and drought, extreme flooding and drought. Can you attribute that to electromagnetic engineering? Yes, we've been accused of that with Iran, as a matter of fact. So there's a lot of accusations unofficially flying about. General Cohen, as most of you probably have heard me talk about or may know yourself, General Cohen talked about in '97 eco-terrorism, electromagnetic warfare, affecting volcanoes, ooh, bit of thunder there, volcanoes, earthquakes with electromagnetic weaponry. Okay, intense storms. Certainly we've had intense storms and drought. I've got here, we're suffering drought. 50% of our states are in crisis right now. So major drought. That could be attributable to incoming a body that would change the climate and change the weather patterns, at least while it came into close proximity, and then as it outbound, it would still have some effect on us. Drought, intense storms, mass animal die-offs. Certainly that's a possibility, and they say some of the larger cyclical die-offs are possibly, they're attributing this to something that comes through. Now, some of these are larger on a million-year scale, so maybe there's yet another body that comes through we don't even know about, because we don't live that long of a time, millions of years, we simply don't know. Mass animal die-off, certainly can't deny that's going on. All planets exhibiting extreme activity. Now, I've read this. I don't have instruments. I don't have instrumentation to actually find out myself. I don't know if this is true. And one of the questions I would ask people, if you have a link where anyone is talking about where they have evidence that all of our planets are undergoing extreme activity right now. And I've seen some evidence of this, so I wouldn't have it up here, but I would really like to get some firm evidence and firm links from reliable sources on that. Because if that's the case, well, then we know something solar and happening in the solar system. It's a solar-wide effect within the entire system. Okay, the common Elenin hoax, we mentioned that. I think that was a psyop. Again, they don't want everyone getting excited and freaking out, because you have to admit, if this were true, oh, it'd be one of the most darndest things in the world. You'd want to prepare. People would be robbing banks, they'd be raping, pillaging, plundering. I mean, especially over here, they'd go ape shit, to use a phrase. And that's what they're trying to avoid here. And I tend to agree with the authorities on this one. I've thought this one through. And you couldn't even in 1970, had you had evidence, say, look, 30 years from now, start preparing, because right down near the end, lots of people simply wouldn't have the resources or ability to prepare. They would be unprepared. Some people, grasshopper and ant, simply aren't prepared, and those are the ones you'd have. I mean, it'd be absolute madness. It'd be lunacy, because they would literally go insane to try to acquire the resources and food and water and stuff to survive, you know, and that's where all the zombie stuff's coming in right now. They're getting you prepped for zombies. 2003 Planet X hoax. This one was worked up that in 2003 it was all going to be over. It never happened. You know, again, so it lends toward another Elenin type psyop where nothing adds up, and then once it's gone, you look back on it and you say, man, that's just a big distraction is all that was. Okay, here's a big one. CIA, NSA, and Northcom moved to Colorado. Mile High Stadium, what can I say? Be out of the way of any kind of major waves if there were some giant flyby that actually does cause like 1 mile an hour high waves. Seed banks at the North Pole. You can't deny they're putting in seed banks at the North Pole and they're storing up seeds. Why would you store up seeds? I mean, just do the math. Think about it. There's really only a number of reasons. Salt mine book storage. Man, I love that thunder. I like to hear it in Florida. Believe me. Salt mine book storage. Well, I've seen a picture of all these books down in a salt mine where they're tucking away all of the books, hiding them away. Again, it's like you're you know a hurricane's coming and you're stowing all your goodies down in the basement so it doesn't carry them away. Museum antiquities theft. I have an article I never finished. I need to get out there called U.S. Invades Countries with Pyramids. But it was more than that. It was old archaeological, like the Plain of Jars and the Libya, world's oldest mummy, and Bosnia, the largest pyramid. I mean, when you started looking, I was like, hey, this is really strange. I know there's oil in some of we invade countries with archaeological sites, and furthermore, in Iraq and other invasions, it's known that the museums get looted. And I read a book where a group of oligarchs came to Bush, as the story goes, and asked him if they could go in and have their way. And you can make anything happen if you got the money. If you want those on, you can't deny Egypt and Iraq. It's a cradle of civilization, folks. Now, oil field and aquifer securement. Can't deny that either. I mean, Libya's got the huge aquifer. George Bush has the Paraguay aquifer. And we've got the oil field secured. If you were wanting water and oil for some big catastrophe, well, we kind of got it right now, don't we? You may be thanking these guys later. You may end up thanking I may end up thanking Dick Cheney one day. I don't know. I leave all options open. Into the shuttle program. I mean, think about it. If this thing drags meteors behind it and other objects behind it, then meteorites, whatever they are, I know there's a definition there, I'm probably getting it wrong, then you really got to think about keeping your astronauts out of orbit. You don't want to risk their life. You don't want to risk your high-dollar shuttle. You can do it with other lesser value equipment or just hit and run stuff, or let the Russians do it, you know. Okay, Revelation, Mayan, Hopi, 2012 prophecy. Again, I want to stress this. After 2012, I won't take this video down because it just shows how, as a detective, you kind of go through and start looking at anything and everything, leaving all options open until you can eliminate them one by one. So whether it comes or goes or not, 2012 is kind of my timeline. You know, if it doesn't come then, or a month or two thereafter, that's it. I'm not waiting for 2013. If they say it's coming in 2014 or 2016, I'm not paying attention to them. Over it. The rise of the military and FEMA on U.S. soil. They are going to deploy soldiers here, we're told. FEMA's been stocking up on supplies. FEMA's a giant growing organization. FEMA's been preparing for disasters. Just do the math. I mean, this all attributes to some giant calamity, not necessarily a Planet X in all of these cases, but a lot of them do kind of lend towards some celestial astronomical event. FEMA purchase of rations, 140 million MREs. That wasn't too long ago. They bought that. They were doing exercise in the new Madrid fault line area. DHS stocking up on ammo. Hey, like in the last couple weeks when people see you actually moving your bases and military stuff from the coast, they're going to know something's up, and at that point you want your troops out, you want to secure the homeland. I don't like calling it that, but you want to secure our national soil and enforce that people don't get out of line. Violence isn't going to happen. No one's going to break the law. No one's going to rob banks. No one's going to break into for food or anything like that. We're just going to be an orderly descent if that's what it has to be. So that's why you would supply DHS, you would create a DHS, you would create a FEMA, because you know there's a giant catastrophe coming. Is it cosmic? Is it man-made? We're going to find out soon enough, I have a feeling. I'm not making any timelines or deadlines, except I'm saying on Planet X, if by 2012 it doesn't happen, I think we can probably dismiss it and move on to other better stuff. Okay, exercises on East Coast, West Coast, New Madrid, largest ever. Mailed Fist and Frucus were two exercises within the last year, biggest ever. Frucus was on the East Coast. Russian, France, United Kingdom, U.S., all these people working together that kind of act like they're enmity, you know, like Putin doesn't like Obama when they sit together, but we're doing exercise together and training together, so, you know, to some degree you would cooperate if there's some larger danger out there other than our own piddling little man's faults. Over 50 recent volcanoes. I read that somewhere, and I've been watching over the last year and a half. The volcano activity, I don't remember in my lifetime it being like this. We've had it one after another. Air traffic stopped over in Europe with the Icelandic volcanoes. So no one can doubt South American volcanoes. It's lighting up right now. Chemtrails for concealment of celestial body. Why can't we see it? Well, if it's an infrared brown dwarf, you're not going to see it. You have to have special equipment. And we'll talk about where they conceal and they hide this stuff, and how could you keep it a secret? How could you keep a secret this large? We'll talk about that in just a minute. Chemtrails being added, chemtrails being added to children's movies, etc., is possibly a psyop to make you think they will be spraying for a long time. Okay, after a planetary flyby, they won't need to spray any longer, as the effects will begin to diminish. So placing them in movies tends to discourage you from thinking that chemtrails are for hiding a second sun planet and or protecting from its effects. It really makes you think they are long-term for climate change, right? That's a possibility. Keep that in mind, because I keep hearing about the chemtrails being added, and I think to myself, all that means is they're adding chemtrails to children's movies and nothing else, you know. Could be trying to trick you. Okay, explain/accounts for. 1. Effort to convince us it's all HAARP, chemtrails, electromagnetic engineering, global warming, etc. And there's a lot of the guys on YouTube, and I've been one of them, to go out there and say, look, HAARP is intensifying some of this weather, and we've seen some strange ring-like effects and what Dutch sense calls scalar squares, but what do we really know about that? I mean, in retrospect, when I look back at those videos of mine, all I can tell you for sure is I saw some strange rings in the radar, and that's all I can tell you on that, to be honest with you, quite honest with you. Does it not look natural? Yes. Are they doing weather experimentation? Yes, and you can maybe make that conclusion, that leap, but again, that's the beautiful thing about weather control, weather engineering. It's not a smoking gun, a bullet type effect. You can't trace it right back. Okay, it's causing all these things causing the extreme weather, anything but the destroyer, anything but something beyond anybody's control. I mean, think about it. They'd rather you think it's a zombie invasion or a government takeover, anything before you think there's some planetary body so severe of a flyby to cause total worldwide calamity. And think about the nuclear plants to be going up. Gosh, we won't even get into that right now. Don't even get me started. Number 2, all the PSYOP distractions and somewhat damning info found on the alternative media. This is a distraction that only has to last a little longer. I mean, think about it. There's a really lot of good stuff on the alternative media, and the tide to some degree is turned that people are being educated and finding out what's happened. Why is this being allowed? Because like my quote from Zappa said, the illusion they only maintain while it's cheap. When it's not cheap, they drop the illusion down and they just come out with the guns and they do whatever they want, you know. So it seems to me a lot of this stuff going on, these psyops, this blown up East-style tabloid, you know, Osama bin Laden raid, this stuff is going on as a distraction from what? Something much bigger. Possibility, you must consider that. Number 3, the rise of FEMA and the emergency communications takeover in FEMA camps. The FEMA camps could be for refugees, just like China has these ghost cities built. And the emergency communications takeover. We now know that Obama and FEMA can just hijack everything all at once. Well, what would that be for? Well, they want you to maybe think it's a government that's going to take over, and maybe they will after this thing is gone, if it's true. But in the meantime, they have control of emergency communications when it gets close enough, and they can no longer hide the fact that they're evacuating bases off of the coastal areas. There will be an announcement. There will be a crackdown. That's what the Viper teams are for. That's what TSA is really for. And that's what all this secure grid is really for. They want you to think, oh, the government's taking over. But hey, you have to remember, and I always say this, when you think you know what it is, it's always something you missed. It's even worse. Even worse. Okay. Number 4, all the security measures being taken worldwide. All of this will come into play in the final days when we all start to find out what is happening. I just said that. 5, China's ghost cities. Well, China's built ghost cities. What are they for? Yeah, one could postulate and speculate, you know, for hours on end. But one could easily say if there were a calamity or disaster on China's coastal areas, they could walk those people into their ghost cities and fill them up and go right back to work like nothing. Never missed a beat, right? Number 6, DUMBs, deep underground military bases, and bunkers. Bunker sales breaking all records. Wealthy are buying them up as soon as possible. Waiting list. Okay, in these bunkers, I made a note. I read about some of the ones they deploy in the Midwest Plains area. They're resistant up to 300 miles per hour winds, and they float. They're floatable. Again, what are these bunkers for? Financial collapse? You know, what do the wealthy power elite know that we don't know? And remember, the reason maybe infrastructure is not being built up, if you were super rich and someone said, hey, this giant planet's coming through, you know, it's done it before, we read the scriptures and the old scrolls and writings, and it's pretty bad. You know, you don't invest anything until it's gone. Save your money. Save your money. Okay, number 7. Almost done here, folks. Number 7, prolific number of troll shills in the Nibiru Planet X threads. Look, like I said, I long ago discounted Bigfoot. So I don't go on the Bigfoot threads, and I don't haunt the Bigfoot guys. I know there's Bigfoot videos on YouTube. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I know that the chances of aliens controlling a robot Bigfoot are so slim, I don't have time for that. But if 90% of systems are binary, and we have historical accounts and records, and we're seeing this preparation for something coming up, we must consider it as a possibility. At least, like I say, in 2012, when that's done and 2013 rolls around, I won't waste another moment on this ever again. And not that I normally do, because I'm returning to this because this recent video has come up where they're saying people are evacuating the military bases off the coastline are to be evacuated in 2 weeks. Number 8, continuity of government Rex 84 efforts. This has been going on sometime since Ollie North, and in the hearing where they don't want to talk about what Ollie North knows, I should post up a link to that. And continuity of government, well, one thing it could be for is a global or nationwide disaster. Not a Katrina, but a Katrina globally or Katrina across the 50 states. 9, total lack of funding and rebuilding for infrastructure. I mean, our bridges and roads are in horrible disrepair. They love to hand those contracts out to their cronies, and you can't deny that there's something strange here. I mean, like I say, I wouldn't tell my wife I'm going to fix a house up in 2013 once I'm sure Planet X and Nibiru doesn't come through and the aliens don't attack us. Then, babe, I will go out there and mow the yard and fix up the house and all that stuff. Okay, now, final notes on this. Conclusion. Well, if you just look at what's going on, discounting the Planet X theory, discounting the Nibiru or the brown dwarf, there's plenty of evidence that a calamity is being prepared for. That's my conclusion. A calamity is near. What it is, I don't know for certain, but all the evidence lends and leads in that direction. Can be no doubt about that as far as I'm concerned. Questions that people ask. Why can't we see it? Wouldn't observatories be seeing that? I hear this all the time. This may be a trolley troll thing because national security, okay, the rubric of national security is just, it's abused. Would that be a proper term? Now, chemtrails has been going on, but there's been no official, announcement of it. Okay, no one's announced it, and they've kind of kept it on the D-low. I mean, admit it, there should be a giant uproar, but no one's really talking about it. Okay, it's almost as if a lot of people already know about it, but they're just kind of keeping quiet about it because they've been told to. Near-Earth objects are classified under national security. Why? Same reason as Planet X. They don't want people freaking out, robbing banks and looting and raping and pillaging and going bonkers in the end. If they think they're going to die, who knows what some of these losers will do, right? We haven't raised a lot of quality people. Quantity, but not quality. That's a problem here. Okay, so why can't we see it? How can they hide it? The people ask that. How can they hide something this big? Well, they hid the stealth bomber for 20 years. Arnold Schwarzenegger hid his love child for 11 years before he even found out about it. So things can be hidden. Secrecy is not a problem. Okay, maybe there's not even pilots in the chemtrail planes. Maybe it's drones. You have to consider these possibilities. People swear an oath to secrecy. They know the punishment is a fine or a federal penitentiary time, so people tend to be quiet in my experience. Yes, they could. And again, how well are they hiding it? Well, the elite and wealthy are purchasing bunkers and preparing, so one might say they're doing very well of keeping it from the sheeple, if nothing else. And in the end, maybe that's most of their big worry is the sheeple are the ones that are going to overreact and loot and rob and go crazy. Can HAARP cause these effects? Well, it's possible. It's possible. I tend to think the amount of energy involved with the volcanoes and the earthquakes and the weather we're seeing now, if that's the case, wow, I'm really impressed. I'm really, really impressed. It could be attributable to something other than HAARP and something other like the galactic plane theory. And there's a lot of other wild things out there if you want to get oddball and really go out there. Another question I had, is Zecharia Sitchin the only one who reported on the 12th planet and the Anunnaki? Because it would be one thing if multiple anthropologists, archaeologists came out and said, look, we looked into this, and yes, it's true, there's this other planet, there's a whole other sun, the Anunnaki from heaven to earth came. This is not just multiple people are reporting on this and digging up the cuneiform tablets, and they're finding evidence of this. To my knowledge, I've only heard of Zecharia Sitchin, and I don't really know of anybody else, and I'd certainly be interested to investigate other sources of information historically, archaeologically, anthropologically speaking on the Planet X Nibiru. I mean, is there anyone else out there I can look into? Is this the only guy? Because if he's the only guy, who paid him? Who does he work for? I mean, he seems bona fide in the videos I've seen him in, but hey, even, not to name names, a lot of them out there seem very bona fide. I mean, you can't deny that. Are all planets being excited? Another question I've got. Are all planets being excited? Again, I don't have instrumentation to determine this myself. I can only go off what NASA says or reports on the internet, and it's kind of sketchy for me right now. I will say this, Venus is lit up in the morning. I've never seen it so bright. And that's a fact, and that's with my own eyes. I can't observe that. And basically, finally, I said evidence indicates some calamity is near, real or fabricated, be it a cosmic thing or be it something that man has engineered and is planning, or just out of just the foolishness, the folly of man. And that pretty much sums up this video here, just over 20 minutes, and that covers all the possibilities. Again, do I know Planet X is coming? Am I a believer? I don't know. I can't say that, no. But I see a lot of evidence that something is certainly coming up, and we know we're drought stricken now. Food's going to be a problem in the near future, if nothing else. The dollar seems to be collapsing, so certainly we should all have a little bit of water and a little bit of food on hand and be prepared, and that we know for certain. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video, and any comments, as long as they're not vulgar, obscene, or just rude, I'll leave them up in there. You can feel free to discount Planet X. I'm looking for hard evidence as to why there is no possibility of. That would be, other than an ad hominem attack, actual hard evidence why it can't be, Like, for instance, all the planets aren't being excited in the solar system. I'd like to hear some information on that. All right, thanks, guys.
Oh crap! Oh crap! Oh yeah, we got debris, dude. We have debris. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Look at that! Look, there's debris. We got a tornado. Yeah, it's right on top of us. Yeah, it's right on. You're in a tornado. You've had. Holy crap.
La goduria, la goduria. Ah, quando fa così?
Un bel respiro.
Ah.
Questo spazio.
Ah sì. Shh. Mamma mia. Wow.
Capi.
Mild 2013 hurricane season along our already battered shoreline. A massive and sprawling dust storm in Africa may suppress this year's hurricane season, at least for a while. Over on this side of the...
Hurricane season has officially begun, but everyone, no matter where they live, needs to prepare for a disaster. We've had record flooding, tornadoes, and disasters in all parts of the country this year. But there are 4 simple things that everyone can do to protect themselves. First, you want to review your insurance. You want to make sure you have enough insurance to completely rebuild your home and replace all of your personal possessions. The second thing is you want to ask about flood and earthquake insurance, because while a standard home and renter's insurance policy will provide coverage for things like a hurricane, a windstorm, a tornado, you're not going to be covered for flooding or for an earthquake. You're going to need to get separate insurance for these types of disasters. The third thing is you need to conduct a home inventory. This is a simple list of all your personal possessions with their estimated value. This makes buying the right amount of insurance much easier, as well as filing a claim. And the Insurance Information Institute has free web-based software to make this process as easy as possible. And lastly, you need to have an evacuation plan. This is going to include knowing where you're going to go and what you're going to take with you. And if you have pets or the elderly in your family...
Sa ira may tatengki halo antes perigo natural serne acontece? Halo diskusang hamuto ko itani familia na komunidade, hori concorda ba fating nebe magsiguro ba ita to hamuto kalay ba, wang hira acontece besae ka tsunami ka rainak doko. Protese dokumento sira nebe importante ia plastik larang no tau dok dokumento sirak ne husi be. Hanesan tau ia armari leten. Reserva liling no pilha ba lâmpada no tau hamutuk ho dokumento sira. Reserva bemos ho taka meting. Karik ita hari uma hili didiak fating. Labele hari uma basic rai lolong ka basic rai hung ka ia area nebe be sae bebeik. Karik ita hela basic tasi hari uma dok husi tasi ibung minimum metro atus ida. Hala fundasang umaniang ho simenti besi no hari iharai nebe metin. Uma ni kuluna no didin sira tenki liga hamutuk ho didiak no meting. Nune Quando rainak doko, sira la tohar ka doko. Usa ay barak iha itani uma kakuluk no prega meting kaleng. Wan hira tempo animbot bele tau fatuk rumah iha uma kakuluk leteng para kaleng la bele aning lori. Tesi ay sanak sira nebe basic iha itani uma no sira nebe bele mono ba uma kakuluk. Hamos be dalang sira husi foer. Labele sunurai no hasai vegetação, mai be kuda ai no husik duut moris. Hatene ona sinal sira ba be sae hanesan, udam bot iharai lolon no mota hahu na kono lalais. Buka hatene kona ba sinal tsunami ne bebele acontece hanesan rainak doko no be tasi se marang lalais. Hanoring labarik sira o insan nani hori hamenos risku basira wan hira be sae ka tsunami acontece. Muda animal sira ba ya fating nebe siguro. Sa ida mag-itabel halo ang hira perigo natural acontece? Wanghira be sae ka tsunami, muda ka abrigo bayar fating ne be asliu. Lori hamutu ko ita documentos importantes sira, lilin no be mos. Hamate ahi elektrisidade. La bele lori kareta liu si motalaran, tama bele meeting hela ka bele lori ita batasi. Nomos, importante hadok ang husimota no tasi ibong, tama bele lori ita bafalitasi. Wanghira anin bot, hela hakmatek ya umalaran no taka janela no odamatan sira. Nomos, la bele hamrig basic janela. Lorimos holilin. Hamate ahi elektrisidade. Wanghira rai nakdoko, karik ita iha umalaran, subar an iha kama ka mesa okos to nakdoko para. Depois saiba liur, no hela hakmatek ia fating nebeluan. La bele hambrik ia aine okos ka basic edifisio nebe bele munutang baita, no la bele hambrik basic rai lolong ka ia fatuk bot leten. Karik ita uza hela fugang ka gas ka ahi hamate lalais. Saída mag ita bele halo depois do perigo natural acontece ona? Depois be sae, ke e be dalang atu be bele suling sae husi kintalaran. Hamos no hasai foer husi uma no be dalang. Nono be antis atu hemo. Depois acontece rai nakdoko, hela na fating iha liur iha fating nebe luan. Cuidado na fating horai nakdoko nebe bele mosutang depois rai nakdoko bot acontece tia. Taka mate ahe elektrisidade. Nono be antes atu hemo. Tuirmai itare kona barai mono. Rai mono acontece tamba fatuk no rai suli tung husi rai lolon. Dala barak, buat ne acontece tamba rai nak fera nebe mosu tamba udam bot ka rai nak doko. Timor-Leste ia rai tatinis liu husi persentu walunulu. Hanesan rai lolong nebe as tebes hodi aumenta risku barai mono. Faktor seluk makontribui barai mono mak aktividade sira nebe ita ema halo hanesan tesi kasunu ai duut no ai moris. Halo dalang ka hari uma iha rai lolon. Husik balada hakiak livre bamai hori hang arbiru ai hori sira nebe iha rai lolong. Buat serne hotu bele hamosu erosaun no halakong rainya bokur hori aumenta risku barai mono. Nune bele hamosu perigo bai tenemoris nomos halo estragos makas padalan, ponte, propriedade no infrastruktura. De floresta saunga Timor-Leste bo tebe se ita compara horai selo. Distrito Sira hanesang Manatutu, Liksa, Dili, bobonaro no ekusi, makhetang de floresta sang makasliu iharai larang. Nune, distrito Sirne bele hasoro risco bot liu ba desastre. Atu ajuda ha menos de floresta sang, ita bele controla diak liu, ita nia balada hakiak, atu la bele husik sira ba estraga ai horis no rai isin. Atu prevene no ha menos ita usa ai barak quando atu tem, ita bele usa det minarai ka fugang rai. Ita mos bele usa agrobriket. Atu hatene dia klutang kona ba praktika agrikultura ba tempo narok, mai ita hamutu ko Pascual do Carmo husi Ministério Agricultura.
Projeto agroforestry ini objetivo maka o insama atu protegerai para rai label halai be label sobu rai serne. Depois o insama atu bele halotos permanente o maneira permanente nomos atu heta hahan nebe maka permanente iha tempo naru se quando hahan laiha idane bele suporta ba sirne hahan nebe mak sira kuda hanesan ferai ananas fortaling batar sira kuda mus kuda ai hanesan ai gamal ai mahoni ai amarefuig homos ai kakeu para atu insama protegerai e depois bele hetan hahan nebe mak suficiente ba sirne mori. Comunidade sira maka serviço hene sirna animal sira começa kesi hotu tambah ahamba animal iha tiona iha rai nebe maka tama ho programa agroforestry nebe sira usa aparu aine para hodi foham fali bibi karau nebe maka sira kesi maioria comunidade nebe maka tama he grupo agricultor ne hela basic iha rai lolong hela basic rai hung sirne antau ho programa idane quando ai sirne bot bele protegerai se ha menos rai monu e bele contribuímos para a menos desastres naturais.